Illinois, Ms. Schakowsky for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. Always great to see you. I wanted to talk about seniors, no surprise, because I am the chair of the Task Force on Aging and Families, and this has been a priority for me, as you know. So there's nearly 1.3 million seniors and people with disabilities who are living in nursing homes right now, and each one of them deserves a really good quality of life. The pandemic was just terrible, you know. Number one of people who died, people in nursing homes, that, you know, was kind of a death trap situation in many ways. And, you know, public dollars through Medicare and Medicaid make up 70% of long-term care funding. So taxpayers are really paying for these institutions, and yet what we see is private equity firms have gotten more involved. I mean, they've been, nursing homes too often, I think, are seen as a way to really make some money, sometimes milking them for the money, and we need to do better. So, Secretary Becerra, we are really grateful to President Biden for the initiative to improve nursing home quality, safety, and oversight, and we really welcome what was said is almost $500 million included for the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, for that purpose. So what I really want to know, and what keeps me concerned, is whether this is actually going to be enough to address what I think is a really big issue of making sure that we're able to improve care in long-term care facilities.
Congresswoman, first, great to see you again, and thank you for the hug earlier in the hallway.
I wasn't going to mention that, but it was a good hug.
The president made it very clear that we're going to really go in and look deep at nursing homes, because we saw so many Americans die as a result of COVID. That was where we saw the greatest number of Americans dying.
Over 200,000.
Yeah, and unfortunately dying by themselves because then they couldn't be joined by their family members. And so we just can't experience that again. So the president has laid out some pretty strong markers. We're going to do more oversight. I mentioned this to Congressman Doggett. We're going to make sure that we find out if these facilities are adequately staffed, if they have people who are adequately trained. The president in his budget does provide resources that makes it possible for us to provide additional relief to about 1.5 million caregivers and families, so we can increase the access because the demand is so great. But we're also going to do something a little differently as well. There are a lot of those folks who are in nursing homes who don't have any choice because families don't have an alternative. Home and community-based services are a great alternative, because if your loved one can be at home where he or she feels the most comfortable, surrounded by loved ones, cared for by loved ones, with some professional help, that's the best way you can go. I say that as a son who had a chance to watch his father pass away in my home, and cared for him and my mother for 4 years while I was living in Sacramento. There is nothing like it, and we're going to, especially if you pass Build Back Better or some elements of it, we'll be able to make game-changing investments in home and community-based care. And I hope that what you do is realize that Americans are crying out for the ability to care for their loved ones closest to home as possible.
No question about it. And, you know, we also want to think about the workforce and the workers themselves.
That's right.
And, you know, if you're a home care worker, the average wage that you make is something like $12 an hour around the country. So it's really hard to get people to do that work, even though they want to do that work. So we have to care for the caregivers, both the home caregivers, the family caregivers, and the people who work there too. But so thank you very much. We're going to, anything we can do to work with you, with our task force, to make sure that home and community-based as well as the facilities can benefit. So thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. I now recognize the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Grothman, for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm going to lead off talking about one of my pet topics. I spoke last week with a Dr. Dror from Israel, and he felt it was a small study. I don't think the sample's enough to